During the holiday season, many across the country have returned to the skies after the pandemic shut down airline travel for 2 years. But delays at the airport that will be a minor inconvenience for some can turn into a disaster for others. Emeka, tell me about the importance of your chair and the impact on your daily life not having it would bring.
So obviously I can't walk. So my chair is everything for me. And not just from a transportation mode from getting from 2 feet to 3 feet, but like my van is an accessible van that I drive from my chair. And so even being at the airport and being asked like, maybe you can just go home and then whenever my chair gets here, get delivered to me, it's like, no, that I can't go home. I can't just drive because the thing that I use to drive and to get around is not here, and so it's a big part of my day-to-day, a huge part of my daily living, like my daily living activities.
Which that reminds me, do you, like when it comes to the gym, like if you didn't have this chair, would it impact your ability to work out or the way that you work out?
But yeah, if I didn't have the chair, it impacts everything.
That's what I was thinking.
This chair is everything for me. Like I work out from it. It's built for me to be comfortable in, and if my being in a regular chair was easy, then these things wouldn't cost as much as they do.
For 35-year-old Tulsan, Emeka Nnaka, American Airlines created a catastrophe. So, Emeka, can you go ahead and set the scene for us? Where were you going? When did you get back? And what happened with American Airlines?
So I was in Miami for Art Basel, and I had a flight scheduled to leave Miami Saturday at 8:49. And it was the last flight flying out. It was going to be a direct flight to Tulsa. Unfortunately for me, traffic got in the way, and I got to the airport maybe about 50 minutes before takeoff time. So I'm telling the kiosk lady, like, hey, we got to go. And she said that they would not be able to get me on my flight, that there wasn't enough time for me to get on my flight. And so I was pleading with her to let her know, like, hey, I'm by myself. Like, there's plenty of times in which on a last flight, like, we can get there, we can make it work and just load me on like last or whatnot. But they started to move. They moved me to a flight the next morning, and I had to spend the night at the hotel. Not even at the hotel, excuse me. I had to spend the night at the airport. And it was a long night, man. Like, to be honest, it's the longest I've never been in my chair for that long of a time in which I didn't get out of it. So it is me being in my chair, but the good thing about it is that I am in my chair, so I can lean back if I need to. If I'm having blood pressure issues, I can lay my chair flat. I can adjust in my chair. And that's basically what I did for the next 12 hours, or for the next 10 hours. And my flight pattern is to go from Miami to Austin, from Austin to Tulsa, and I would get into Tulsa by 1 o'clock. So I get on the plane, no issues. I'm thinking to myself that, we've had all this prep time, and so I'm on my way home. The night was a long night, but it's, I'm about to go home. So we get to Austin, and typically, to set the scene for you, just so you understand how it goes, when I get to the airport, they have to load me onto the plane first. And so they lift me out of my chair, put me into like an aisle chair, bring me into the plane, lift me up, get me into my seat in the plane, and then they take my chair and load it. And usually when I get to my next spot, they will bring my chair up. They get me out of the plane into my chair. I take my chair to the airport, to the next gate, to where we repeat the motion, do the whole thing again. And then when I get home, chair comes up, they get me out of the plane, get me in my chair. Okay. So when I land in Austin and everyone's getting off the plane, I tell, they're saying like, okay, we're gonna go get your chair. And I'm like, you know what, I need to make sure my chair is outside of the plane before I get out of the plane. Because usually when sitting in the plane, I'm safe. I'm buckled down, I'm not gonna fall anywhere in the plane. When they put me into the aisle chair, I have to get strapped down, and those aisle chairs are not necessarily they're not big, they're not comfortable, they're not safe for someone my size to be in there for any significant amount of time. because of course, because I am 6'5", I weigh 210 pounds. My body does not bend. I'm not some gymnast or anything like that. And so it's a task. It's a task to get me from one place to another. And a lot of things aren't built for someone my size. So the airline people come. They come to get me out of the plane, and I'm assuming that because they've come and get me, that my chair is out there. And so they wheel me out, and I don't see my chair. So I'm like, hey, I need, are you guys gonna go get my chair? And after a couple of minutes, someone comes up to me and says, hey man, I've got bad news, but I've got good news. He was like, the bad news is like your chair is not here. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, they lost your chair. And he tells me like they put it on the wrong flight, but that, the good news is that it's gonna get to Tulsa and it'll be in Tulsa when I get to Tulsa or whatnot. And so now I'm not even thinking about what's going on with my chair. Then now the immediate issue is like, okay, so if my chair's not here, how am I gonna get to my next gate? And so we are, so the guy that's helping me, he's kind of frantic trying to figure it out because he knows that the chair that I'm sitting in is not one that is, safe, and it's not one that's going to be easy for anyone to transfer. He also can recognize that because of my size, is going to also add to like, how do we transfer this dude? And again, with Austin, this is not their problem that they caused. This is a problem that has shown up for them, and they're just trying to figure it out. So someone has a clever idea of, because I felt more safe staying in the aisle chair because it has straps versus being transferred into the wheelchair that the airport has because it does not have straps. And at any given moment, I could slide out of it. So they are moving me through the airport, and they put we get my legs up in another wheelchair, so that someone is not just bending over and holding my legs. And they are now like getting me from one gate to the other. And let me tell you what sucked is that, I'm going through the airport and I'm looking at people looking at me. And that's the one thing that's probably the worst part about when you travel is like, you don't want to be a spectacle for people. And here I am, a spectacle for all of these people. But I'm trying to maintain a good attitude about it because like, let me just get on. These people are trying to help me. I need the help. Let's just go. And it's not their fault that this is what it is. Land in Tulsa and no chair. And even more than like that, it's like, as I'm talking to them, they have no idea where my chair is at because they're looking in the system trying to like find, is it coming to Tulsa? Is it in Miami? Where is it? And the only thing that shows is that the last time that someone made a note about my chair was in Miami.
After losing your chair, or after the airlines losing your chair, which is worth how much?
This chair that I'm sitting on is upwards of $45,000.
So let me be clear, not $4,500, $45,000.
$45,000.
So the price of a new car.
Basically.
And they're offering you
$100 voucher for the inconvenience of them losing my quote unquote baggage.
And what was your response to that?
Let me tell you, I am a very chill person. Anyone that knows me knows that I am very even keeled and don't really get mad about a lot of stuff. And even in this moment, I want to take you into my internal like dialogue. At this moment, I am frustrated with the fact that I'm not in my chair. I'm uncomfortable. I'm mad because I'm dealing with this, but I'm now also mad because I'm remembering the fact that had they just held that plane for 12 minutes and got me on the night before, I'd been home and not dealing with this. But now I've spent 12 hours in an airport in Miami because of a decision that they made, that American Airlines made there. And now I'm dealing with all of this after supposedly being there on time. And how do we have this kind of mess up when I'm now have done everything right and have taken responsibility for I was late the night before. I suffered my consequence of being in the airport for 12 hours, and now I'm dealing with this now. That's not my fault. And then to add insult to injury, you offer me $100 as if that is something that is going to make me feel better. There's a flight that's coming in 2 hours. Now, I'm already 3 hours into this ordeal. So there's a flight now they're saying is coming in 2 hours that my chair might be on, but we still can't verify that or not. So what am I doing until then? We're calling, trying to figure out if there is any organizations or places that have loaner chairs that might come up and that I can use. But those chairs aren't built for me. Those chairs don't work with my car, And so I'm like still thinking through all these contingencies, and I'm also trying not to start anything like by calling friends or calling my family because and again, up until this point, I don't want to make big news about this. I'm not even trying to ruffle any feathers. I'm just trying to get through this, go home. I just want to go home. I want to get my chair and I want to go home. And so then at one point I get uncomfortable again and have to change into another chair. And even while we're changing into chairs, again, I'm thankful for the staff that was at the Tulsa airport that were able to help me as best they could. But there are no processes for when, what to do when this goes wrong, Now 6 hours have gone by and now we have found out that my chair is on this flight. And my chair comes up, getting me into my chair and I'm just ready to go home. I don't want to spend another minute at the airport. I don't want to spend another second at the airport. I'm in my chair. I want to go home and get and lay down. So I go home and I know at this point now I've posted on social media. I'm like, showing what's happening, and I know that I still have to have a conversation with American Airlines because it's one thing to, human error is human error. We make mistakes like that's. I'm not even mad at that. I don't know what happened, whether or not my chair was ticketed wrong. I still think it's a travesty that something like that would happen when I was there 12 hours prior to my flight. But mistakes happen. What we do after that is what, is to me is the most important thing. The response after a mistake is the most important thing. And so now I get a call from someone from American Airlines, and they're wanting to know what all happened. I'm telling them exactly, telling them what happened. And they say, we want to, our team is aware of what happened. We want to figure out what went wrong, and we want to do the best we can to make sure this doesn't happen. We want to offer you, $300 more for your, as in trip credits, for the inconvenience. And again, I don't really have any type of number that I feel would be sufficient, but I do know what feels like an insult. And that feels like an insult because for anyone that is, that would go through this, does $400 make up for the, fact that of being ridden through the airport the way I was paraded through Austin and became a spectacle? Does $400 make up for that, like feeling like less of a human being, that dignity aspect? Does $400 make up for that? Does $400 make up for the fact that the anxiety that I had to go through for this entire 6 hour process of not knowing where the most important piece of my life is? Does $400 make up for that? Does $400 make up for the aches and pains that I'm dealing with from laying prone in a position between two chairs for 6 hours? Does $400 make up for that? Like, I've offered to go in and talk to like American Airlines in general, anyone about what we can do better about one, streamlining the travel experiences for someone with disability. One thing about like how to handle chairs that are as expensive as this chair is. I was told that they handle things internally, and so I don't know. Like I'm not a Joe Schmo. We talk about accessibility. I talk about accessibility issues and disability issues on a regular basis. I think that more needs to be done in regards to how airlines transport people, and my emphasis on the word people with disabilities, because again, it's not about transporting cargo. You're in the business of transporting people, and people with different ways of getting around. And if you're going to tell me that every customer is important, then you're going to have to show me that every customer is important. From those that can get on by themselves to those that need assistance to get on from the airport itself.